Well, Paisley, we had started, Ruben and I had started talking a little bit before you got on, but she was telling me about,
It's my
did you
age.
say you had moved and when did
Oh,
you,
yeah, I said I've been to like 8 or 9 schools, like since preschool.
wow. You know what?
Yeah.
I went to 8 different grammar schools also. How come you were moving around so much?
Yeah, so I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I lived there for like 4 years, and then I moved, or my whole family moved to Saudi Arabia so we could like learn Arabic and stuff like that. We lived there for 7 years, and within Saudi Arabia, we moved like I didn't count, but like a bunch of times, and that was pretty much where I got exposed to a bunch of different schools. And really, my parents were trying to make sure that we went to like an English school that taught English, so that we wouldn't forget language. And then we moved to Iowa, and I went to Horn Elementary School and junior high, and then West High now. So that somehow adds up to 9.
So, um, well, like I said, I went to 8 different grammar schools, but they were all in the United States. And my dad was a businessman and was setting up. It's called Hertz Rent a Car, and they were just starting out. So he would go like we would move to a place and he'd set up the whole operation, and then we'd move to another place and he would do the same thing all over again. So I actually lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a while, and then Florida, Oklahoma, Texas, um, quite a lot of different places. But what effect do you think moving all around, especially like to another country, um, what impact do you think that's had on you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they say home, they associate it with like a physical spot, like the building of your house. But I think I've developed that idea that home is like the people that you're with and the memories that you develop. So I've learned to not like also attach myself too much to things because, I might just like drop it and move. But I think I've also learned social skills. I grew up like a very shy person, but I think moving along, getting to know a lot of people, allowed me to be able to like reach out to people and be like, "Hey, let's have a conversation." And I'm still like kind of awkward about that. I think a lot of people can relate to that, but yeah, I think it helped with my interactions and being able to deal with like different types of people and stuff.
Well, I feel like it made me a lot more understanding of different cultures and more flexible just in my way of thinking. You know, that um, they always make jokes about like Americans when they visit Paris or they go to Europe that they want everything to be just like the United States. You know, it's like, well, why did they go there anyway if that's what they're expecting? Because that's not what you're going to get if you go to a different country. You know, I mean, the thrill, even moving to a different state, is sometimes things are very different. You know, like the way people talk. Even though they're speaking English, they have like a lot of different slang or terms that you might not use in a different part of the country. You know, to me that's really interesting. Or just the food is different. You know, and well, you made a real big jump. You know, um, when you moved, but yeah, I think it's only well with my experience of it, I think it had definitely had more positives than negatives. You
Yeah.
know, I
When you
did
move,
I did
yeah.
have a weird thing after we stopped moving so much. I would want to, like when I got my first apartment, like every 6 months, I'd want to change all the furniture around. It was just like, it was like a habit, you know, you moved and everything was different. It was like I wanted I needed like something different every 6 months, I guess. Anyway, did you have a question you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you've moved around the US itself, like a bunch of different places in different like regions of the US. Which state would you say was like the best overall, like in terms of weather, food, people, dialect, everything?
Well, I was originally from Chicago, and I actually spent I just moved to Iowa in Iowa City this past year in August. So I had prior to that been in Chicago for 6 years, but you know, I actually lived in Bellevue, Iowa, right on the Mississippi for like 19 years. And I don't know if you've been there, but it's a small town, like 2,000 people. It's absolutely beautiful. It's like stepping back in time. And I really thought that was the most beautiful place. And it was very calm. You could like, it was such a small town. There were, at the time I moved there, there were no fast food joints. After about 10 years, they have one Subway, and it's beautiful because it's right on the river. It's got like a balcony area where you can sit right on the Mississippi. So they don't have a movie theater. I mean, there's a lot of things they don't have, but I really found it to be the best place I've ever lived. You know, even though Chicago was great and has a lot of nightlife and theater, I love theater, you know, but the sense of community in Bellevue, everybody looked out after each other. I have a son, and I raised him in Bellevue basically, and it was everyone pitched in, and they help each other. You know, I mean, he had a wonderful experience growing up. So Bellevue, Iowa, I guess is at the top of my list, even though I lived in England and, you know, have visited Paris and Scotland and all sorts of places. That's it, Iowa.
Interesting, yeah.
How about you? What was your favorite place?
Well, I've lived in like all kinds of like cities, like big cities, and then like suburban, like out of city. But I would say, I don't know, I don't really have like a favorite place. It's like it's a totally different experience in Iowa City and then Saudi Arabia, because that one in Saudi Arabia, I used to live like in big cities, so it would have like huge nightlife, like in Chicago. It was super super hot, and Iowa in the summer can also get like that, but the winter is like total opposite extreme. But I was like already tired from like the hot weather, so I took it all in. It was fine. Um, but yeah, it's just like a whole different culture, just way of life. So yeah, I would say each had their advantages and disadvantages.
Cool. So, oh, did you have a question for me?
You can go ahead and ask me one.
Okay. So with COVID happening, are you doing school at home, or do you have activities where you still go to school, or how's that working for you?
Yeah, so ever since like the beginning of the year, I've been going to school online. All like my activities, which were basically like clubs and organizations, they all moved to an online platform. I don't do any sports, so that didn't affect me, but I know some people like did online and then went to sports, but that also like depended on whether school was open at the time. But yeah, I've been doing online, and at first it was relaxing, I would say, because we only had half of the day. So I either could wake up late or I could like finish with school early. So I really enjoyed the free time, but as the free time increased, just like procrastination levels, they began to take over. And it's just been like the same routine every single day, and like Zoom classes, you don't really see people because like cameras are off. You don't get that interaction or sense of community because it's just you come for a lecture and then you go do your homework, and it's really up to you to reach out to people and interact with them. And then like with the weather, the ice and stuff, it's also hard to get out of the house and meet with people. So yeah, that's been hard too. But I would say also like opened up a lot of opportunities because now you can go to different meetings just like by click of like start a meeting or something, but you don't have to actually physically go anywhere. So you can do so many things. And actually last summer there's this program. It's called Project Seed. It's by the American Chemical Society. And it's like usually it would be in-person research in the lab and stuff. But since COVID, they just like flipped it virtually, and it was like a summer internship where you were able to like develop like college application skills, just science skills in general, like lab safety, chromatography, stuff like that. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for COVID because I didn't have an Iowa City location. So that opened up an opportunity for me.
Well, that's great. I really enjoy being involved in research studies. I did one. I did one recently. I just finished up a 3-year study at Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital. It was called the Mind Study, and it was research on how what you eat affects your brain in terms of your cognitive skills, your ability to think, and whether it would affect preventing you from getting Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really cool study. They haven't published the results yet because not everybody has completed the 3 years, but you would go in and have like psychological testing once a year, but you had a nutritionist, and there were 2 groups. One group ate the Mediterranean diet, and the other group could eat anything they wanted, but they had to track every day what they ate, and they had to reduce their intake like by 250 calories. So I'm overweight, so I thought, well, this would be a good study for me to get into. Weight loss wasn't really one of the goals, but I did lose 50 pounds, so I thought that was good. And I really learned a lot about nutrition because they had classes you could go to before COVID, and they were all like group classes, and the nutritionists would be they would do like a cooking demonstration on like a healthy meal or something like that, So it was fun. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm hoping to get into some research projects in Iowa City once things open up. So we'll see.
I'm intrigued. What did you find like so far for your results? How does food affect your mental?
Well, you know what? They one of the things one of the prerequisites for this being in the study was that you had to have a family member that had Alzheimer's. So they a lot of times they think you are you may be disposed genetically, So when you first go and they do all the psych testing, they can tell if you have any like memory loss or anything like that. And I didn't have anything like that, but they were trying to detect it over the 3 years of the study. If you had it, was it getting worse? Or was it staying the same because you were eating well, depending on what group you were in, but it was pretty interesting. My dad had signs of Alzheimer's before he passed away. So it was something I thought maybe in the research would help other people down the road,
For sure. I think I read some, sorry, what?
I was going to say, so are you interested in doing some type of research, or the class that you were in, was that just kind of to hone your skills for applying for college?
Yeah, so the Project Seed program, we did like a research summary where my project was like the platinum-based anti-cancer drugs, and I just basically researched that and like what was being done already in research, and they like had us put it in a creative format. So I wrote a poem about like the science research summary. So yeah, that was something very interesting because I like already write poetry, but incorporating scientific terms in it was kind of difficult, and I had to like make it rhyme and stuff like that. But currently I'm doing science fair, and I'm testing the effectiveness of different masks. So I have like this particle counter, and basically I wear different types of masks, and then I talk through it, and then it detects like the amount of particles that went through. So then I know the one with the most particles that went through was the one that was least effective. And yeah, that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Well, that's cool. I read something really weird yesterday. It said that some scientists figured out that if you could like capture all the coronavirus molecules that are in the world, that they would fit inside a Coke can.
I saw that too, yeah.
Did you see that? Isn't it wild?
Mm-hmm.
I just, I sat here and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, how do you even, well, I guess it's like a whole math formula you have to figure out, but the idea that this pandemic is being caused by this virus that basically, it's worldwide, and it would fit in a Coke can. It just blew me away.
Yeah, like I think a COVID particle is like 0.12 microns in diameter. So it's like so tiny.
I know, it's just crazy. But yeah, I'm sure hoping that, you might have seen it because it might have been in the same magazine you read. But they were saying that, now they're saying, oh, international travel might not happen until 2022. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, things are really at a standstill on so many levels for people, Are all your do your three brothers live at home with you?
Yeah, so two of them are younger than me. They're like still in elementary school. And I have an older brother who's a senior in college, but he's doing online school, like online college right now. So they're all at home.
Okay.
Yeah. He studies in Evanston, which is like super close to Chicago. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very familiar with where that is.
Yeah. He goes to Northwestern. So
Mm-hmm. So have you had any thoughts about where you would like to apply for school?
yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know what I want to study, to be honest. I'm thinking like biomedical engineering, food science. I have no idea.
Well, you also mentioned that you wrote poetry.
Yeah.
Are you interested in literature or writing?
I haven't, I'm not sure. I'm just not the kind of person that can sit down and write something like as my career. It's just something that pops up in my mind and I write it down. And yeah, I actually did a program when I was in ninth grade, I think. And I met a lot of people, and that it was like a residential program at the University of Iowa. So yeah, it's just more of like a hobby.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd recommend that if you don't already, just carry an empty journal with you wherever you go, or a notebook, so that when that spirit moves you, you can write it down.
Yeah, sometimes I just write it, on my notes app on the phone. Definitely not the same as writing it down on paper.
um, I've entered. Well, I just moved here. I said like in August, but I've entered a couple of like poetry, and they had a haiku contest through the University of Iowa, and then they have those flash writing, like a story writing contest too. So my story in haiku didn't win, but I'm gonna keep trying.
Yeah, that's okay. Me neither. I didn't enter for anything, but I didn't enter. That's not winning. So
Well, I believe you have to have the courage to be imperfect. So, not everybody can win, but I'm going to keep writing. I'm in a writing class now, actually online, and it's 7 weeks with 7 writers. And it's about probably the 6th or 7th class I've taken. Otherwise, I've just been spending my COVID isolation reading and writing, basically. So,
speaking of COVID and quarantine, have you developed any new skills or found any new interests during quarantine time?
um, well, I had stopped writing for a while. Um, I took about like 6 months off, and then when COVID hit, I started again. So that was a good thing. And then I started this other class. Actually, the class has been going for about, I think this is our 6th week. So, but I when I entered like that haiku contest, I started writing like a haiku every day. And there's a woman that I met years ago. Her name is Anne Reed. She's actually like a guitar player and a songwriter and singer. And she's been giving concerts out of her house every week. So, or it's twice a month, and then twice a month she has like the sing-along thing. And I found out from her that she and her friends each wrote a poem every day during COVID, and they published the book already. I mean, they did it. I guess one of her friends was a psychotherapist and one was a social worker, and then Anne is a musician and writer. And yeah, so they just they made a contest out of it. It was like, for 2 weeks they would do a haiku, for 2 weeks they would do another short form poem, and like all these different combinations. And I didn't even know that many forms of poetry existed, but so like every chapter is a certain form of poetry. And yeah, they did it every day. And I thought that was like the greatest idea, to have friends that would go along and do that, like religiously every day. And they shared their work, and then they picked out the ones they wanted for the book and got it published. And just like that, to me, that's like, I haven't been that productive during COVID. Let's just say that.
Me too.
I've been sleeping a lot. I've been eating a lot, you know. I you know, when you go to college, they always joke about the freshman 15, like putting on 15 pounds the first year. And I called it my COVID 15 because, like, the first 5 months, I put on like 15 pounds and I've taken them off little by little. But um, when I'm at home and I'm just not moving around that much and or going any place, hardly at all. And or if I'm in my car, I'm afraid to get out of my car now because of the ice, you know,
Yeah.
and everything. So sometimes I have a plan. I'm going to go to the store and do this and that, and I'll just end up going through the drive-through at Walgreens and pick up medicine, or drive through at Wendy's, and I come right back home. You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that was real productive. You know, but I met a woman downstairs in my building. I live in an apartment building, and there's an indoor garage, and she I hadn't met her before because nobody's even coming out of their apartments, you know, and she was walking up and down the length of the garage, and she said that's how she gets her exercise. And I thought, well, that's not a bad idea, you know. So if I see her again, I think we'll just figure out a days when we can do it together, and because we can maintain social distance, you know, I mean, the garage is big, so it's like we can go up and down it and talk and get to know each other. So that's my next COVID plan.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, honestly. Yeah. I have been also struggling trying to get out of my room because my room now is not only where I sleep, it's also where I go to school and sometimes even where I eat. It's just all been combined into one space and it's not very productive anymore.
Well, it's hard. My son is working from home, and they have a baby that's just turned 1 year old, and his wife actually still goes into the office. She works in a real estate office. So, and then during COVID, they got a new puppy on top of it. So he's got his hands full, but it's hard not socializing with people. And, you
Mhm.
know, sometimes over Zoom, it just, I mean, I love talking to my friends on the phone or by Zoom, but it just really doesn't take the place of
Mm.
being there in person with someone, you know.
Yeah,
But
and there's also like the people that, like for me, that I just used to see in the halls at school and just like have small talk with them. But now it's like kind of weird because I didn't wasn't actually friends with them, but I still like talk to them in class and stuff. So it's kind of like losing connections with people that like it's just the closest people to you that really is like holding on to right now.
well, I hope, you know, I just think it's good to keep communicating with people. And I agree with you. It's like you have like your family, you've got like your inner circle of friends, and then acquaintances. And sometimes, I mean, at my other building, it was about twice as big as this, and everybody knew each other. And because there were social areas in the building, you could go and sit, and or there was a kitchen where everybody, like on Sunday, would have potlucks and stuff. And you might not be buddy buddies with everybody, but even just seeing people on the elevator and saying hi, how are you, you know, it meant a lot. It meant more than I realized until you don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
everybody's like waiting to like bust out, you know. and
That's
and
true.
the reality is COVID's going to be around for a long time until, you know, that herd immunity happens. And um, there are so many people that don't want to get vaccinated still, that I think it's going to be a long road ahead before people can really get back to some sense of normal, you know.
Yeah, I think people are waiting for the day that COVID gets wiped out, but it's not. It's now like a part of our life, and I think it's just like going to be like the flu someday, hopefully. So it's the new normal, really, and now it's our normal. It used to be the new normal like 6 months ago, but now it's just normal. Yeah.
I know. I well, I feel bad for, high school students, and because this is really these are your formative years, and it's so important, the socialization with your peers and teachers and mentors, and to not have that is, I think, is really difficult. I mean, you have to be really self-motivated, during this time. Otherwise, you just kind of fall behind, I think. But do you have any other like extracurricular things you can do, even if it's online?
Yeah, so I do right now. I do. I'm part of the Black Student Union. So I think the first time in like 8 months that I've been in school was like last Friday, where I went to like decorate like me and like two other people from the BSU. We went to decorate the main office door, and like we created this mural that was like a Black person persona, sort of. It wasn't like an actual person. It was just a Black woman with like black hair and stuff. And so I think that was really fun. We did that. And then tomorrow actually we're doing like a presentation to the entire school about the history of Black Muslims in America, because like we had this MLK Day thing where we did a session about that, and there was like a lot of interest in it, and so we thought it was a great idea to expose the rest of the school to it as part of like Black History Month. So yeah, I've been doing that, working on the presentation. Other things, I'm also, well, that writing program that I mentioned, a couple of us like from that year that we did that, we formed like a little group, like a little club, and we meet I think every other week, and we just like share poetry, put it in like a big Google Doc folder, and we like look back to the first days of quarantine when we started the whole thing. So that's been keeping me busy. Other things, just like science fair stuff. Um, there's like a bunch of other clubs. Like, but we also have like a mentoring violence program where we're like training, like for circle training, to help freshmen, especially this year, that are coming in and like being able to adapt to high school life online, and forming connections and stuff like that. But yeah, much more things than last year. Last year, I was just taking it easy. I was like, oh, I have 2 years left. I did not know it was going to be quarantine and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got a really great variety of things you're involved in.
Yeah, that started this year when I realized I had all this time in my hands, and now no social life anymore outside of things that I'm like obligated to go to. So, yeah.
Well, good luck on your presentation. Did you say it's tomorrow?
Yeah, it's tomorrow and also Thursday. So it's like 2 parts.
Wow. That's great.
Thank you. I started a mask business.
Oh, did you?
Because yeah, so we got like a sewing machine that also embroiders, and I just like started making masks for people as presents, and they're like, oh, this is actually kind of cool, you should make it a business. So I just like launched, I think last week or something. I made an Instagram account, and I've been like posting every 2 days, so learning some entrepreneurship skills, even though I'm not going to go into that field.
Well, that's great. You
Yeah.
know, um, I think that's a great like entrepreneurial thing to get involved in. You learned a lot doing something like that, and you just improve skills, and you just never know when that's going to come in handy, So are you, there's, when I moved here, I needed some furniture, and I went on the Iowa City Marketplace, and a lot of people sell stuff on there, and I don't know if there's an age limit or anything in terms of people who are selling items, but I found exactly what I needed on that. And people sell everything from like, some people sell masks or, cars and all sorts of stuff, but that might be an avenue also, or just word of mouth through your friends, if you wanted to sell some. Ruba, who do you think has influenced you most in your life so far?
Interesting question. I don't know. Well, I get these questions a lot, and I'm like, everybody that I've met has influenced me somehow. But I would say like just in general, my friends and family, because like seeing my friends, they relate to me, and then just seeing them motivated each day and like working hard. I see myself in them, and then that motivates me to work towards my goals. And then just like my family adapting to all these worldwide crises, multiple ones happening, just being able to stay connected, stuff like that, really. Yeah. These are hard questions. I can't just on the spot think of someone.
Well, you know what? I think that's a good answer because it tells me that you value everyone who comes in contact with you. That, and I believe in that actually. Sometimes you can have a chance meeting with someone, in a grocery store for 5 minutes, but they can still impact you, and they can leave a lasting impression, or they can say something that just really stays with you and clicks, so I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, you're good. Oh, I want to say one last thing. The research that you mentioned about the like the food and how it affects your like memory or something. I read somewhere that people who are bilingual or like multilingual, I think they like develop these like networks in their brain or something, and it makes them like less likely to have memory loss, something like that. Just something to look into. I don't know.
Well, I think that's very possible. I've always been interested in the brain and human behavior, and I was a psychiatric nurse for over 50 years. So it's been my specialty, and I've seen how certain illnesses affect your brain. And of course, any medication anybody takes affects your brain. So it makes sense to me that the food you eat would affect your brain also. Your blood is, what you eat is transformed into, is carried in your blood, and your blood is feeding your brain. So it's all connected, so being bilingual or artistic, like even writing poetry, you use a different part of your brain, and not everybody does that, so or being bilingual. I'm not bilingual, and I have had the most difficult time. I have tried to learn languages. I immersed myself in Italy, and I came out knowing like 3 phrases. There's something I can't, I mean, I don't want to say I can't do it but I haven't been able to this far.
Yeah.
But I admire people who do, and I really admire musicians to be able to, to me, to be able to sing and play the piano at the same time is like, almost seems like impossible to me, but I know people do it, it's just, um, and I think that they have an advantage. I think their brain is like, their synapses must be connected differently or something
Yeah.
to be
Like
able to
read
do
notes.
it.
Yeah.
But or as you learn those skills, and the earlier you learn them, the better. That I think it just keeps your brain more active and functioning. And the energy just flowing. So, yeah, I had. Well, thanks for telling me that, because I'll be looking out for like more articles about things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, is it okay if I ask you both a few questions?
Sure.
Okay. So, what is one thing that you're really proud of?
One thing, I'm proud of a lot of things, not gonna lie. So the other day it was my brother's birthday, and I made this cake. It was just piped perfectly. The frosting, amazing, and it was all dairy free. Like that, I was so proud of myself. And also just like starting my mask business, I thought like I wasn't able to, put myself out there as a name, and then reaching out to random strangers and asking for their orders and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great to put yourself out of your comfort zone. One thing I'm proud of that, along those lines, is that when I was a nurse and working as a nurse, I rarely deviated from that. I was kind of like all consuming, because I was working full time, and then over the years I went back and got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, and I really just devoted all my time to working and going to school. Well, one year I went to a music festival, and my girlfriend and I decided we were going to make silk screen t-shirts. And we bought the t-shirts, we dyed them ourselves, we silk screened them, we had them hanging all over our apartment. It was just crazy. We packaged them and we sold them. And it was such a fulfilling artistic outlet for me that I really felt proud to do it, and we didn't sell all of them, but then like putting myself out there, which I would never have done in a million years. But I had t-shirts left and I didn't know what to do with them. I went to, there's a bookstore in Chicago. It's kind of a feminist bookstore. It's called Women and Children First. I went in there and I pitched the owner, on selling the t-shirts in her store, and she did. And one of the proudest moments was like 3 years later, I was walking down the street in Chicago, and I saw a woman wearing my t-shirt. And I was just like, oh, it's like, like if you were a musician and heard your song played on the radio, I was just so jazzed. And it just seems like a little thing, because it only took a few months. I mean, but it was a plan. We put it together, we saw it through, and we ended up selling all the t-shirts. And it kind of reminds me of your mask business. It's like, well, without the pandemic, you would never probably have gone that route. You know what I mean? But it's like life has many roads, and you never know which direction it's going to take you. But, you have to be, it's good to be open, I guess, and flexible about things like that.
Sounds like we have two successful businesswomen in this business call. All right, I've got another question for you both. What is one item on your bucket list?
I would say I've always wanted to go to London just because I just want to hear the British accent. It's really just that. I just want to hear people talk British. And I've like stopped at the airport before, like connecting, like a connecting spot. But that's just like all not British people. So I just want to go to, London.
Well, I used to live in London, and it is a wonderful place to visit, definitely. And I think the accent is really beautiful. The country itself is really beautiful. Well, let's see. On my bucket list, one thing on my bucket list I just did, which was move back to Iowa, and that was because I wanted to be closer to my son and his wife and their new baby, because I thought I could help them out, especially during the pandemic, with the baby, and so that has happened. Let's see. I think I would really like to publish a book with my short stories in it. I think that would be like the next realistic thing on my bucket list.
So cool. Those are both really good answers. I think my bucket list looks pretty similar to both of you. Okay, one last question. This will be our last one, and then I'll set you both free. So, if you could give any advice to your past self, what would it be?
Well, I'll go first on that one. I have a longer past, but I think my advice would be, don't make decisions based on other people's expectations. You know, I have struggled with that in the past in terms of, and I think it's natural until you get to a certain point where you're independent. But even when you're an independent woman, you still, you know, it was like my mother would like creep into my brain. And, you know, and it was just like, oh, well, what did my mother think? Even if I didn't even live in the same state, you know, it was just like, you're so influenced by people close to you, but they have expectations for you. And sometimes they don't really jive with the direction you would personally like to go in. And I think, definitely my recommendation would be, go with your own instincts, you know, and you can deal with the fallout later. If your friends or family or mentors don't agree with you, it's like, well, you know, I beg to disagree, but we can still be friends. You know, it's just like, choose your own path. That's it.
I agree with you. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to separate what you want and what other people want you to want.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with that personally. Hopefully you can't hear my brothers laughing in the back. I don't know what they're talking about. But my advice to my past self would be, just do it. And I know I'm stealing that from Nike, but really, I feel like I'm a very hesitant person, and like I calculate all the different possibilities. I'm like, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, I could do this, blah, blah, blah. But I think once I just do it, I realize it's really not as hard and as difficult as I imagine it to be. And once I do the thing, I'm like, I should have just done it earlier. Like, why did I wait so long for this? So yeah, I would say just do it.
That was lovely, you
Well,
guys.
I think you're a very accomplished young woman and very interesting young woman. And, the more comfortable you become with yourself and your confidence grows even more, you'll be less hesitant about taking risks, because there's a lot to be gained from taking risks.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Hopefully I reach that state one day.
Well, it was really nice talking to you today, Ruba. It was nice meeting you.
Yes, same here. Fantastic conversation. Learned a lot of things.
Thanks. Me too.